What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. We have a lovely NBA slate on our hands. And, to be honest, it's been a little bit of a struggle. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, no, not a winning player for BobbyFi over here. Usually been on a little bit of a good run until that. Doesn't feel great. What's going on with you, Sheets? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, well, remember, so it's interesting. So 2 nights ago, when you just kind of just did okay, I mean, I got crushed. And yesterday, I mean, I did well because I want to say I got lucky. I was very true to my approach. I did stack the crap out of those 2 games to the point where I did rules where I had 3 players from each team between Hawks, Knicks on one game and Pelicans, Nets on the other game. And the way I grouped them worked out because remember what I talked about the Nets is I was going to spread out the wings, but in almost every one I was going to have Jarrett Allen. So the Jarrett Allen, he did really, really well. So that carried those lineups really nicely. And I got extraordinarily lucky with the Hawks ones because every one of them, well, for good reason, I mean, if I was going to stack them, had Trae Young. And Trae Young was on pace for a very pedestrian outcome because they were getting destroyed. But they ended up letting him play like the entire fourth quarter down 35 points against the Knicks fourth string. So that gave him basically a free 20 fantasy points. So, like you could say, don't make yourself worse than you are or better than you are. Believe me, the part of my lineups that were supported by Trae Young was not something that I would expect to happen in the future.
Yeah, I felt pretty sick about it, to be honest with you. It's the only reason why I didn't, literally I bubbled the high buy-in tournaments without Trae Young. And that was just absolute, complete and utter nonsense, in my opinion. It's his 4th highest minute total in regulation in history. It's his highest minute total of the second highest minute total of the season. Actually, it might be his highest. That was nonsense to me. And I don't care if people say he plays in blowouts. There's no reason a guy should be playing 10 more minutes in a game where you're down by 35 points. It just it really infuriated me, especially on the road. Anyway, we'll just have to note that in the future that literally we can't trust these minutes for the Hawks. And honestly, by the way, I'll say the same thing about the Knicks. I don't know what they're doing. You don't leave these guys in there up 35 either. It doesn't make any sense. That was just really, just to me, stupid, poor coaching.
Well, I'll tell you, interestingly, from again, to look into the future, one thing again you have to keep in mind when you're looking at projections and looking at average points and stuff. You know who sneaky has become the ultimate garbage time massacre of points is Mitch Robinson. Mitchell Robinson,
yeah, you're right,
has been just a killer. If you look at his scores, wow, he smashed there. Every single time, I'd say every single time, most of the times it's through this fourth quarter blowout run. So just keep that in mind if you start seeing his thing and start projecting him for whatever. He hasn't exactly been eating, the starting unit with getting those fantasy points.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. That whole game it kind of tilted me, to be honest. It just made no
I got you.
But anyway, let's get over to tonight.
Okay.
I really do like this slate, and I actually am going to pick up my daughter soon. She's going away. I'm going to meet her on Monday. We're going to go to Costa Rica. She's going with her mom tomorrow, so we're spending the day together. I'm picking her up tonight. We're going to have a whole fun day in LA. So I'm not playing as many lineups. I am playing one giant lineup, I guess you'd call it, on each site. And I would love to figure out a way to win a couple $100,000. Sheets, what do you think?
Well, what I want you to try to figure out then is who the hell is playing tonight.
That's going to be part of it.
Because there's a couple of things that are going to determine this slate. One of them, not the slate, is going to determine how you approach the slate. One of them being whether Karl Anthony Towns plays, and we'll get to that. We'll get to all these things, but that's a major deal.
Can I
and there are other injuries that
Karl Anthony Towns thing? I think there's an incredible, if we don't know, okay, so I love Towns tonight. This is a matchup could not suit him any better. He plays, we want Towns, obviously. But I'm just going to throw out there, I think Joel Embiid is on a mission now. I think he's going to go nuts in every single game that we see him play. And I think he's going to put up 50 to 75 fantasy points in every game. And I think that you can play him as a pivot off of Towns if Towns is in. I just want to throw that out there. Maybe that's a little bit of a different thing you can do. And if we don't know about Towns, I would encourage you to try and gamble. And honestly, if you could try and play both those guys, I would go for it. But I actually just think that it's just an interesting pivot that I found myself on is that I'm extremely high on Embiid, and I know no one's going to play him tonight.
Well, I have an interesting kind of reverse take. Not reverse take, but another thing you could think about. If you're going to play on FanDuel and it's about 5 minutes to lock and they're still saying Karl Anthony Towns' is game time decision or unclear, I would take a shot on playing him.
Yeah, me too.
He just always seems to play. So I think that unless we hear on the earlier side that he is out, I'm just kind of I would take a chance that he plays if I were forced to make that call before lock. And FanDuel, since it's a pretty big gamble to take a $10,000 player, not knowing his status. I think that could be something that you can do.
I agree 100%. The only problem I have with it is there's wet routes where I could see, first of all, second of a back-to-back for the Pelicans who have been awful. Maybe they get blown out. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying that there's things to consider. I also don't think Towns is going to be that low owned, even if we don't know. I think we're going to assume he plays. So I would like to gamble, but I also think that you can leverage a lot by just, we're going to get into it in this first game, but okay. I am just all on the Embiid train every game these days.
That's awesome.
All right. So let's get into that first one.
So that's the first game, and we'll get to the Andre Drummond nonsense a little bit later. But so the first game for me is certainly the best game of the night to start off with, and it's one thing I wanted to mention, Bobby. One thing we could start doing in the future is and this is again, I don't want to stray too much. I always do this, but I think it's important every once in a while that we start analyzing from the late games backwards. I'm starting to get this theory, by the way, that the later games are not as analyzed as in-depth as the earlier games just because of the way content providers feel they have to kind of like blast through the games. I think that on a ratio, they spend less time analyzing the later games than the earlier games. And considering that I do like to play the later games for reasons I've described, maybe one day we'll go from the later game back. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
I think that is an interesting point, by the way. And when we do a live show, the next time we do a live show, I think that is actually a great way to start. Okay. I think it's actually a really good idea, just to be different than what other people are doing. And I agree with you. The games it's incredible every day on Grinders Live, every day that they do a show, every single show on RG, every show on Osmo. It's always, we're running out of time at the end. And I'm like, well, that's the key part. You know what's happening at the end. Don't run out of time.
Nevertheless, from my opinion, this is the game. This is the game. Okay, so Chicago against Washington. This is exactly the type of game I like, except for it being early. It's a high total. It's a low spread, and it's got guys that I know I want to play, and not to mention the fact there's injuries that are going to make things even more concentrated. So let's just go through it. On the Chicago side. Chicago side's actually pretty interesting because obviously I want to play Zach LaVine. I always like to play Zach LaVine. We always talk about it. It's probably going to be higher owned than he usually is.
I don't nonetheless, think so. I honestly don't think so.
Really? Nonetheless, This is the nut matchup, right? And the Bobby bump against Washington also. I mean, Zach LaVine's obviously a premier play in this game, but there are other guys on the Chicago team that I really want a part of because I am going to stack this game a lot of ways. And two of them, Wendell Carter Jr. and Lauri Markkanen, I like even more maybe than some people might like because of what's going on the Washington side. Washington's lost all their bigs, and not only that, Rui Hachimura, who's another pseudo big, is out for this game. So it's really just Mahimi and Bertans as the two rebounders, and you got Markkanen who can get rebounds, and Wendell Carter Jr. who can get rebounds. I think their rebounding rates have to be really, really increased for a game like this. So I think that they should get a little bit extra upside. And, just because I want to stack the game and I want to put a fourth guy in, into my mix, just throw it out there. This is Satoransky going back to Washington. So I am definitely going to get a piece of him in there also. So those are the guys from Chicago. And on Washington, I kind of alluded to already. Obviously, Beal is going to be the star, right? He's going to be the star guy to use in any stack. He's 9,500. He is projecting really, really well, but even if he weren't, he'd be the guy put in for all the upside that he has. And then, as I previously mentioned, Davis Bertans has now become, aside from Mahimi, who God knows how many minutes he can actually play physically, Bertans going to be getting a lot of rebounds now, not to mention that he shoots the ball a lot. He's probably going to be insanely popular, but he's projecting really well, and he's the second guy. And after that, I don't know if I'm going to go to Mahimi. I'll probably have to in some stacks. But there's a big gap in value projections from Beal to Bertans down to these other guys. So Troy Brown, I guess he'd be a guy to throw in. Isaiah, I guess he's healthy. I don't know if I'm going to go all the way down to him. I'm not going to play this guy whose name I can't pronounce, the new center. I thought it'd be 3,000. He's actually 4,000, which is actually kind of sick. And I don't know if I'm going to go to the Schofield route. So for me, it's going to be a very simple approach to this game. I'm going to take Levine plus sundries, on the Chicago side. Maybe not go Markkanen and what's his name, Carter in the same lineup. Maybe throw some Satoransky in, and then on the other side, just run back with Beal and Bertans, and just maybe a few sprinkles with Mahimi or something like that.
Yeah, I'm on board. I get it. It's just different than what I'm doing with my lineups today, and it's weird to say that because this is a spot where you think that I would be all over. This is my normal absolute perfect smash spot. So here's my issue with the game. The Bulls have been rotating in more players than they did before. Kobe White's minutes have gone down, so I lose interest in him, although I actually think he's a great tournament play at this price. If he gets hot, he could put up 40 fantasy points, and he's so cheap. Chris Dunn is a solid floor guy. I feel good about his floor. I don't feel great about his ceiling. I feel good about Satoransky as a ceiling play. Him and Carter are the guys I'm most interested in, oddly enough, from the Bulls side. I'm usually all over Levine. I love the matchup, but his price combined with the way that they're rotating in Valentine and some usage could go away, it worries me a little bit. So on a giant slate, I don't have as much ownership in this game as I thought I would. I do think Wendell Carter and Satoransky are spectacular plays, especially Carter. I think Carter is a guy who is going to be hard for me to get away from tonight in pretty much all formats on all sites. I don't know how you don't play him exactly. I don't really know how he doesn't get there against Washington here. Then you have the Washington side, which, okay, it's this tricky situation because what I think I'm going to end up doing is playing Schofield. I'll play a little bit of Beal. I'm not going to go crazy with it. And I'll play a little bit of Bertans. But I'm not in love the way that everybody else is going to be. So maybe it's because I'm being contrarian. Maybe it's early in the day. But that's sort of the way I'm looking, is to try and not get so much focus on this game. There's a lot of good spots on this slate. And I really like the Carter Satoransky. I don't mind if you want to run that back with Beal and Bertans. But personally, I don't think that's what I'm prioritizing. I really think Admiral Schofield has upside at this price. He got in foul trouble in the last game, almost fouled out. May have actually fouled out. And I think at his price, especially on FanDuel, if we need value, that's an interesting way to go. And maybe his other value will open up. Look, there's a lot of questionable tags. But I do think Schofield has an upside of 28 plus minutes. And he's, basically near the minimum. I also think Isaac Bonga is going to play 30 minutes, and he's 3.3. I know it's not a fun roster. I get it. But he's 3.3. He put up 22 the other day. It's just a guy worth mentioning. I don't think I'm going to have a bunch of them. It's just that's sort of what I'm looking for in this game is value. I don't really find myself wanting to target and stack as much as you think I would. Maybe it's because I'm playing limited lineups. But that's just sort of where I'm at.
One guy that you mentioned that I actually – had up on my screen last night when I was pre-looking at this slate was Kobe White. And, I don't know how you look at these types of things, but my screen is actually a little bit frozen right now, so I can't quite pull it up. But Kobe White in his last – oh, here it comes. In his last couple of games was just awful from the field. I mean, he was like two for whatever, one for whatever. And people are going to, people are going to obviously scoreboard watch or game log watch, whatever. But like you said, these guys are what I like to call self-correlating. Like these guys, make a couple of shots, whether it's true or not, the coach is going to feel they have the hot hand, and they're just going to let them run. So a guy like Kobe White at 4,100, he's priced as a guy who's going to go 1 for 6. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if he does get a little hot, I mean, we've seen it in earlier games this season where they just kind of let him roll.
Mm-hmm.
And that is again, I don't know if that would be someone I would put in my, if I were playing one big lineup or whatever. But he's definitely kind of like one of those high upside guys that we talk about sometimes.
Yeah, and literally zero ownership, and it wouldn't surprise any of us if we woke up tomorrow and he had 40 fantasy points. So I like that play. Let's move on to the next one.
Miami, Philadelphia. Now this lineup is just because I wanted to remind myself of a couple of things. So two hashtag narratives from here, just to throw it out there. You don't have to play them, but Butler's going back to Philadelphia, and Josh Richardson's playing against Miami, although it is at home. And don't forget, of course, about James Ennis, who played on Miami, and don't forget that Bam Adebayo, who's from Newark, which is like sort of close to Philadelphia. All right. So
how did you know that one? I didn't know that at all.
Oh, I gotta give you the Twitter feed. The narrative street feed.
I love it.
That's the best one, and it's also tells you exactly how many games each of them played against the previous team.
Yeah.
So it's a good one to look at. And we'll get to Fournier against Golden State a little bit later. All right, so Miami. So with all that nonsense aside, on the Miami side, the two guys that do project well are actually going to be Butler and Bam. I mean, they do project to be pretty good plays here. And these would be the two guys from Miami I would include in my player pool if I wanted to play them. And certainly they look fine. Philadelphia, you mentioned Embiid before. You could expand on that a little bit, but he certainly projects to be a decent play. As does the next guy. What I'm looking at is kind of Tobias Harris. So this is a game where it's not a stackable game for me. But like you said, if you want to play Embiid with enormous upside and enormous motivation, like what you've talked about in previous shows, I'm on that. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm on that. And again, nothing really fancy for me in this game. Just the two guys from each team that I kind of mentioned. I think. I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant for a second, about Embiid. So first of all, it's actually about narratives. If you think narratives don't matter, you're an idiot in the NBA. Like, I'm sorry. If you think this, look, to say that all of them matter, sure. To say that doesn't make sense. To say that some of them don't, to say that none of them matter is absolutely ludicrous. And some of them really matter. If you didn't play Joel Embiid the night after that interview on TNT, that if you're not a basketball fan, maybe you wouldn't have caught that, but you're an idiot. No offense, not to you, anybody who didn't. That was the most obvious spot in history that you attack a player after he's getting criticized like that. And he's going to go nuts. I mean, he had a back-to-back, which is the reason he only put up 50 in the next game after that. I think you're literally going to be looking at 50 to 75 every single game until the playoffs, maybe higher. Like, literally, there's actually a ceiling. I know the matchup's not good. I know everybody's going to stay away from him. And this guy, I just think he's going to put up a monster game. I actually think as a pivot off of Towns, who's going to be popular if he plays, he's the best play. And you have to look for certain narratives that do matter. When you get told by Hall of Famers that you respect, that you look up to, like Shaq and Barkley, and they have those kind of things, and he says, look, I need to do you right. I need to dominate more. He seems to have gotten that memo. I think that's what's going to happen. I think the minutes projection is too low on him. I think he's going to play 36-plus minutes. I think you're looking at a guy who I would be surprised if scores less than 55 or 60 fantasy points. And for his price, obviously, that's fine. I also think there's massive upside on that. And I'm going to play a ton of him. I don't mind if you want to run him with Josh Richardson, because Josh Richardson is just way too cheap. 4.9 is definitely a price we can get behind on Josh Richardson. I don't want to get into crazy stacking a game with two good defenses, but I certainly like the Embiid and Richardson.
Hey, Bobby, maybe I think your mic might be kind of sketchy. Could you just plug it in a little bit more?
Yeah, here,
Oh,
what's
perfect,
happening?
perfect,
Okay.
perfect, perfect.
All right. So yeah, anyway, maybe it was probably good for that I didn't get it all out, but I am just going to go. This is what I've done, and it's done very well for me in a lot of NBA things, as you know from history. We had the game last year with Jordan Clarkson versus D'Angelo Russell, the rematch, and literally at 1% ownership, these guys put up 65 each. Some narratives matter, and they don't always cross the board, but this is one that is one you're going to want to get behind. Get Embiid before he gets to be 11K. He's my favorite play on the slate. This may change later in the day, but I just think you're getting a steal on a guy who's not even a price steal, just a percentage of ownership steal. And honestly, you're not going to find his minutes accurate anywhere. The only thing you worry about is a Philly blowout. Miami's a good team. I don't need to worry about that. If you want to run it back with Butler, yeah, you can do that. I don't feel great about Butler on this slate, but I do think he's fine. And look, you go back to Philly, but Jimmy Butler, played for every team in the NBA the last 2 years. So anyway, I'm just really all about the Embiid. I can't emphasize it enough.
Hey, I don't know if you were able to. I don't know, Bobby. I don't know if you were able to see it, but I put that Twitter account up on my screen. Did it share?
I did not see it.
I'll do it again.
I'm in the middle of looking at some stats here. That's
see
great.
it
Narrative. Oh, Narrative Street. Perfect. Yeah, that's awesome.
There it is.
Little shout out to Narrative Street.
Yeah, this does all the different narrative streets.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll check it out. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Embiid? You get where I'm coming from?
Oh, I 100% get where you're coming from, and the way I like to describe narratives and revenge and all that stuff is where it matters to me is for the people that can actually do something about it. You know, like if you tell me James Ennis is going back to freaking Philadelphia or something like that, what's he going to do in his 12 minutes? You know, that's something else. But when you got a guy like Embiid who you just know is like kind of loafing it like 40% of the time, and he could just kind of just turn it on whenever he kind of feels like it. And you can just kind of tell from the tone of his voice that he's kind of a sensitive kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like he gets in the big Twitter fights with people, as I recall, whatever it is. And he's the type of guy that, let's just put it, if in fact narratives mattered, that he could actually do something about it more than some of the other people.
And also, don't you think narratives matter more for guys like Embiid, Shaq, like either point guards who have the ball in their hands or big men who are going to be fed like 35% usage rates? Those are the guys you want narratives with when they matter. And Joel Embiid is certainly a guy who I don't know. I'm getting more and more excited about this play the more I talk about it. So we might have to move on to something else.
Well, one more thing. If you're going to do this. So before I ever played DFS, there was a game, and you told me about it. So let me ask you a question. How owned, because I know it wasn't 100%, how owned was Kobe Bryant in his last game?
61%, and that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And not only that, you know what's funny is he was 6,800 too. Like he was like 6,500 maybe, and he put up 60 real life points. Like, what do you think he's gonna do on his last game? Are you guys anybody who didn't play him? And the same thing when what's his name went back to. The only difference was when Cousins went back to Sacramento. At least he was like 11-5. But he put up 90 fantasy points. Like, some things matter, guys. Some things really do matter.
Okay. All right. With that, let's move ahead to the Charlotte-Philly game. I actually had a couple of ideas. Charlotte-Cleveland? Oh, yeah, sorry. Charlotte against Cleveland. So on the Charlotte side, there are a couple of guys that are interesting, and there's a guy I want to talk about. So Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham, you know, they both project to be, again, decent plays along the sides of a lot of quote-unquote decent plays today. You know what I mean? So, the more I look at this slate, maybe taking a decent play at really low ownership might be a really good idea here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if these two guys might be the plays, but Rozier, Graham, guys like that are projecting just okay, but decent.
No, Rozier is going to be massive chalk tonight, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So again, I'm not even looking at ownership yet.
That's my guess.
And on the other part of the Charlotte thing is, I don't see, again, you're going to have to talk me out of this. So I don't like playing guys like Malik Monk off of games like that. I don't like playing guys like Cody Zeller who smash back-to-back off games like that. And I just don't want to do it. And again, it goes against the math, I guess, that, you know, if they're going to get more minutes because of that, you know, you should play them. I just think it's very chasey. I think that Monk shot 75% from the field yesterday or whatever it is. And I don't know how chalky he's going to get, but if he picks up that much steam, I'd rather not play him. Let's put it that way. I would much rather go with some. What's that?
Sure, there's plenty of other places to go.
Right. I would much rather go with somebody like Miles Bridges than someone like that. On the other side, in the Cleveland game, on the Cleveland side, I have no problem taking a shot at not even taking a shot, but it's probably gonna be popular. But Tristan Thompson at 5,900, he projects to be a pretty decent value. I don't know if I'm going to go to Kevin Love, but Kevin Love would be the next guy. Again, not a real exciting game, but maybe this is one of those weird games where you get a Devontae Graham, Kevin Love blow up. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit reachy, but again, nothing really fancy on either side of this game.
Yeah, I think that it's like if I was playing a bunch of lineups, I think I would have a stack of this game for sure. I'm interested in that they've been limiting Love's minutes a little bit lately, and it sort of opens my eyes for two guys who really do project well as value plays, and that's Osman and Nance. I think Nance has serious upside at these prices. So I that's sort of where I'm leaning. I definitely get the Tristan Thompson thing. I just don't think I'm going to do it on this slate. And on the Charlotte side, the problem is I should have been more on the Monk thing yesterday with Batum out. With Williams coming back, I kind of got a little bit scared off. I do think Monk is in play. He's just a good tournament play. But the problem is if he's going to have ownership, I don't think I'm as interested. Rozier is the obvious play from that side. I think that Devontae Graham is fine. This game is very stackable, like in a very cheap way, and you can still play a star. So I kind of like if you wanted to play this game, I think you do play Colin Sexton. I think he's completely in play in this matchup. But I don't think that you need to do it on this particular slate. I think the guys I'm leaning more towards are Osman, Nance, again, looking more for value. And then I like Rozier. Rozier is going to be, I can't see how he doesn't end up being chalky unless something else happens. But if he doesn't end up chalky, play Terry Rozier. It's a great matchup for point guards. He's 6K at Cleveland, coming off a back-to-back, sure, but they need to get this team's still trying to win games. I just feel like Rozier is very safe for 30 to 40.
Hang on a second here. So I honestly wasn't looking at ownership when I was first looking at this. I'm gonna have to think about this because Rozier, I'm looking at 30%.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not.
No, I get the idea. I get the fading of him completely, but right now I don't have.
I can't do that. I mean, he's just a guy. You know what I mean? He's just a guy as far as I'm concerned. He's on this slate. He's not like any big standout.
He's a point guard who's going to play 30-plus minutes against a team that can't guard point guards and can't guard three-point shooters, and he's 6K. I guess that's the argument for him.
Yeah, well, they are that. Again, not debate this, but that argument's already in the price. You know what I mean? And already in the projections. I don't know.
It's in the ownership. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, and if you want to pivot and take a guy like Miles Bridges, look, I'm never going to tell you not to play Miles Bridges, but a little bit, look, yes, at that ownership, I can see why you'd want to get away. I just feel like it's a really good matchup for him, but look, I completely get it. Right now, he's not in my either my big two. He probably ends up in one, but I'm not guaranteeing that because. Again, you don't need to go with it at this ownership. I think maybe on FanDuel where he's completely unowned, and again in the same matchup, he's 7.4 over there. Maybe you play him over there.
All right. So moving on to the Toronto-Detroit game, presuming that everybody plays. All right. I don't know if everybody's going to play, but I'm for now. Do I have everybody in? I mean, I'm presuming everybody in. Like right now, I'm presuming that both AD and Blake Griffin are in. I mean, in my world, I don't know what's a better 30% owned guy at different positions. Blake at 5,900, or Rozier at 6,000.
Rozier.
Okay.
But only because he's safer. Like Blake probably has more upside, right. I guess.
Right.
I guess.
All right. So anyway, Detroit, assuming they're both in, Toronto, good matchup or bad matchup, whatever. Still AD at 9,200. He's going to project as a good value. I don't know what's going on with the avocado eye or whatever the hell that is, but where's his ownership? I can't find him. Hold on.
Who?
Drummond.
He's not going to be that highly owned, and he is interesting.
You got to be kidding me.
I mean, it's not
All
like a
right.
good matchup for him, but
No, I don't know. Okay, maybe.
but
I
I'll tell
literally
you, no,
don't
no,
see him in the
I'm with
top.
you on the Drummond thing. For me, it's just the Embiid issue that I'm all about Embiid, but I can also play Drummond with Embiid. Like I don't have any issue with that. If you want to do something a little different, I don't think that Drummond is going to get the ownership that he should tonight at this price. But I also don't really like. It's not like an amazing matchup or anything. It's just
No, of course.
Drummond
Well,
at 9.2. Like, let's go. Like he's probably going to put up 45 or 50. Um,
yeah.
I feel a little better about Embiid, even also in a bad matchup, but I just feel like I just know he's gonna. I just feel it in my bones. I can feel it.
This is okay. So this is what I think. I think that if you're comparing AD to Drummond, I think that you have to, they're two different types of plays. I think, like you're saying, I think Embiid's got a real shot to get, 75 fantasy points. And he's got a shot, let's put it that way. It's 75 fantasy points, where Drummond doesn't quite have that type of ceiling environment.
Yeah, not the environment, but he could do it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
So
interesting. I just like Embiid a little bit better, but I also think that Drummond's going to be much higher owned. I know that people don't think so, but Drummond is going to be double digit owned. Like I don't care how that shakes out. He's at 9.2. It's people are going to have a hard time not looking at him with these projections.
well, the one thing I would say, something we spoke about before, that if you do want to play Drummond, which I do, I would prefer Blake be in, because as we've discussed before,
Yeah.
I don't think Blake being in affects his rates that much, and it will certainly depress his ownership a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like if Blake's out, Drummond is going to be 50+% owned.
Right.
If Blake's in, Drummond is going to be 10% owned. Like that's pretty crazy. So I'm willing to take that. I'm with you on that. I think it affects a little bit, but not enough.
Now, Toronto, the two guys that, no surprises are Lowry and Siakam. They look to be, again, decent plays from a value perspective. And these are kind of the two guys. And I would normally say this is not the greatest stacking game in the world, but I mean, I'm just looking, and it's a close spread, and I know where the action's going, at least on the Toronto side. And you do a Drummond with Lowry and Siakam, and you want to do a Drummond Blake with those two. I mean, I've done worse. Let's put it that way. I've ran worse stacks in the world. So just because it's a close spread, and I know where their usage is coming from, I wouldn't mind throwing a couple in.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting plays, but again, probably not going to be where I focus my energy tonight. But I do think that everybody on the Toronto side is interesting. I would focus on. I actually think Marc Gasol would be the sneaky play in this game. It's because you'd have to match Siakam up with or Ibaka up with Drummond. I don't really see that as working as well. So maybe you could look at a little bit of minute upside for Gasol. His price is reasonable. He's played well against Drummond in the past. And then Lowry and Siakam definitely make sense on minutes. But overall, I just think on this slate, we're probably doing something a little bit wrong if this is where we're going to put our attention, to me.
Yeah. So speaking of where you might want to put your attention, so New Orleans, Minnesota. I tell you, when I first looked at this slate, I had a different view of it, and even just kind of going through some of these things, maybe I have a little different view right now. So the news is that Cat has knee soreness or knee brace or knee something, and he's either questionable or game time decision or whatever it is. I mean, he's certainly up in the air. And so if he is out, I would just say watch now. So I don't know exactly where I left off, but I'll just kind of start again real quick.
Yeah.
New Orleans, Minnesota game. I had one view of the slate before I started thinking about it as we started recording, and I think I've completely not changed my mind, but this is kind of what I'm looking at. So Karl Anthony Towns is, questionable / game time decisions, whatever. I mean, his conditions up in the air. And I think that, so if he's out, and I guess Dieng starts, or they figure it out, right? I have one way of looking at this game, and if he plays, I have sort of a different way of looking at this game. So first, I'm going to get to it. So first of all, on the Minnesota side, assuming he's in, he looks like a really good play. Cat looks like a really good play. And even assuming he's in, Wiggins looks like a pretty decent play. Teague looks like a pretty decent play. Then even Okogie, Covington, they all look, I mean, they're playing New Orleans, right? I'm not surprised this is the case. They all kind of look like decent plays, even down to Jarrett Culver, sort of. So assuming that he's in, all these guys are going to look like, decent plays. So if he's out, first of all, their usage will go up, but something else happens if he's out, which we'll get to in a second. So on the New Orleans side, assuming that Cat is in, assuming everybody's in, Ingram just kind of looks okay. Holiday just kind of looks okay. And then the same kind of guys look kind of crappy from last night. Hayes looks all right. Hart favors ball. But the idea is this. So New Orleans is coming off, an overtime game and a back-to-back. So if Cat is playing, I was going to say that if Cat plays, I'm less inclined to stack the game because, they've got so much blowout risk here, especially with the overtime back-to-back. And then the other thing I was going to say is that, but if Cat's out, what happens is all of a sudden the game rates to be a little more, a lot more competitive. And with all the bumps that all these Minnesota guys are going to get, you're just going to be forced to just to attack the crap out of this game. But what I want to say is that I have this feeling now that I think I want to do it either way. It's really risky because, again, New Orleans has so much blood risk coming off the back-to-back overtime and whatever it is, and they might do something funny with the minutes because of that. But I think I just remember this Milwaukee game from a couple of days ago where everybody was so sure that it was going to be a blowout one way, and nobody played Giannis. And if Cat plays and somehow it can stay close in a fast-paced game with a lot of points, I'm probably going to do some of it even if Cat does play. But if he doesn't play, I'm going to find it very difficult to not stack the game. How about that?
Yeah, it's really hard not to stack the game if he doesn't play. But where we differ a little bit, like, I guess I don't have the same blowout fear that you do. First of all, last night in New Orleans, that was that game, them and Brooklyn, I haven't seen two teams shoot the ball like that badly in a game in a long time. Like, it was really, really bad. So we have an awesome I'm getting messages right here about the YouTube being suspended. Hopefully mine's not suspended. It looks like it's still active. We have like an awesome game environment here for everyone. Even if Cat plays, I think I just play Cat, and then I love the Pelicans. So Brandon Ingram shot, what did he shoot? 6 for 21 last night, 7 for 23. And he put up 41. I know it was overtime, but like, he's going to put up a monster game if he shoots the ball decent in this environment. Drew Holiday.
Are you worried about just the distribution of minutes and
running these guys? They need to win games. Look, they're 6-22. They cannot keep losing forever. They need to put their best foot forward. The coach is going to get fired. That means the guys are going to play minutes to me. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. And to be honest, like this whole slate hinges a lot to me on what happens with JJ Redick.
Right.
That's going to change absolutely everything for me. Like
So who are you going to play? So who do you like in New Orleans?
Straight back to Lonzo. If JJ Redick's out. Straight back to Ingram, straight back to Holiday. I don't think you need to play them all together. But look, Lonzo was 4 for 13 also last night. These guys were absolutely terrible and still like put up like decent-ish number. I mean, Drew was 9 for 28. Like, these guys are not going to shoot like that every game. You know what I mean? Josh Hart is another guy who I'm interested in, but he's a little bit pricier than I want to pay for him. So I'm probably gonna not play him as much. Jackson Hayes is interesting on the back-to-back. Favors just coming back. We don't know how many minutes he's going to get. And Jackson Hayes has been playing really well. Again, Josh Hart, another guy, 5 for 14 last night. They were just awful. I think everybody's in play, but for me, it's the main guys. And if Redick is out, I'm going to go straight back to Lonzo. I'm going to
Bobby, could you pause? Bobby, could you pause this for just a second?
Yes.
Stop recording for just a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was talking about the players from New Orleans. Definitely just prioritizing the top guys. But again, if Redick is out, I'm definitely going to have Lonzo Ball in my player pool very highly up. Otherwise, it's the Holiday Ingram for me. I really like both those guys, and I think Jackson Hayes is in play as well. And then on the Minnesota side, obviously, if not Towns, if Towns is out. And then if Towns plays, just play Towns. That's pretty much what I'm looking at.
I have a question for you. I've been meaning to ask you this. So when you talk about when you play guys against Washington or Minnesota, you mentioned that you would like to double your ownership in those types of spots, which I think is, I think it's an interesting stance to take. I was wondering if you ever considered, instead of doing that, to just up everybody's projection by a point or by a percentage point or something like that. Does that accomplish something different?
That is what I do. I mean, essentially. Okay. But like, I mean, the thing is, like, even what's weird is I like this game environment so much. I actually think I could play Wiggins even if Towns plays. Right. I just really think it's a ceiling type of environment when you play the Pelicans. And I think that the Minnesota's defense is terrible. So you get a lot of interesting action in this game. I think that Robert Covington is interesting at 5.3. I'm probably not going to get there, but I think Okogie is probably the guy who I mean, 30 minutes in a game environment that I'm dying to get a part of at 3.9. What else are we really asking for? I'll take a shot on Okogie on a night like tonight.
Well, I'll tell you, I can already tell where who's going to win this slate. So it's either going to be one of two things. I like to project this way.
Is it me?
So it's either going to be the person who gets. It's either going to be a Minnesota New Orleans stack. It's going to be a Washington Chicago stack, or it's going to be a stack that we don't know about, or it's going to be that person who can identify the guys that are going to hit the two solo home runs from baseball.
Right.
I don't know exactly which one it's going to be. And always when it's the guy that identifies two solo home runs, I'm never going to win that one. But I'm already seeing this shape up as being one of those two games between this game and the Washington game could blow up, or a third game, which I don't know which one it's going to be, could blow up. Mm-hmm. And I think, as usual, it's going to depend on the one-offs to get it done. All right, where are we? Memphis, OKC?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so Memphis, OKC. So this is, again, this game kind of annoys me because, again, when I look at projections, it annoys me because when I look at the OKC side, guys just kind of look okay. And the guys that look okay are guys I just never want to play. So, like, on the OKC side, Shea looks like a really, really good value, but I just, again, I've spoken exhaustively about Shea in the past, month that we've been doing these things. And, even a couple of days ago when I said, you know what, I'm even going off brand, I'm going to play Shea, he had like 8 fantasy points, like 3 quarters. You know what I mean? So he's the guy that looks the best, but I'm just not convinced. How about that? Say, what, you're going to fight the math? You're going to fight the projections, fight the geniuses? No, but you know what? There are 150 other guys I'm going to play. Let someone else win with it.
Yeah, I just don't see any reason why we have to get involved in this game.
Yeah,
like personally, but if there's one guy to play, it's a pretty easy play in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not going back to Chris Paul. Again, I will just reiterate that if you were going to play an upside guy, it would be Schroeder, but I don't think I'm going to do it today. And on the Memphis side, everybody projects like crap. So unless there was some reason on the OKC side I wanted to correlate Memphis with them, I'm just going to stay away. I'm probably not going to play Moran or Jonas or those guys and JJJ have upside, but I don't think I'm going to get there today. Maybe they'll be filtered through as one-offs along the way, just to differentiate. But I don't want to spend that much more time on this game either.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just want to mention that Joe Val is the one I would play from this game, even in a tough matchup. He's so cheap with massive upside. So Joe Val, I don't mind if you want to play Chris Paul. He certainly makes a lot of sense for cash games. I'm just not going to go there myself.
Okay. Moving on, Orlando, Denver. This is a real ugly one, man. Orlando at Denver, and you don't see too often teams project for less than 100 implied points this year, unless you're the Knicks. But and this Orlando they're playing Denver.
This is back-to-back college basketball, by the way.
This is literally the worst this is the nut low back-to-back matchup you could have.
Yep.
At Utah, at Denver, it's just rough business. Vooch, maybe, I don't know. That's really it. And I'm probably not going to even go there. Denver side, they project the same like crap as they always do. I mean, I will say this. Again, I hate to be a projections guy, right? But when I look at Jokic, all right, at 9,100, there's one place I'm looking at is projecting him for 45 points. And if I go back to Embiid, 9,848 points, if Embiid were going to be really popular, I would say maybe take a shot at Jokic at like 0%. But It's rough, man. It's just rough to go there.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm going to do it. I don't know if I'm going to do Murray. I don't know if I'm going to do Barton. Those are the three top guys. But boy, can you get away with it? Can you play Jokic at like 0% or not really?
I'm not going to. I mean, I don't really see reason why I would. Like,
all right.
The guy's literally had 2 games this year, 3 games, I guess, that I've been happy with. So he's about a 10%er, and there's plenty of other guys. I would prefer to just play Vucevic, who I think will probably score a similar total of points than Jokic. I don't really want to play much of this game. Paul Millsap is so cheap. Jamal Murray has upside. Vucevic is just way too cheap, but I still think I'm just going to stay away from this spot.
Now, at the risk of doing what I said, right, we're not intentionally blasting through these games because they're later.
No, let's blast through them. Like, this is not a good game.
Right, we're blasting through it because the game is crap. This was the first game we would spend just as little time on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Boston-Dallas is, again, the way I look at it, it's just intriguing from the outset just because it's kind of a close spread. So if it's a close spread, I'll just give it a little more look. And on the Dallas side, with Luka out, you just kind of know where the usage is going, right? So Porzingis finally had a couple of one ceiling, a couple of ceiling games, and all the usage is going to him. He's going to be pretty popular, but he is projecting really, really well. And the other 2 guys I want to mention, I'm not too interested in Dorian Finney-Smith, but the 2 guys I want to mention are Hardaway and Brunson. So I know Hardaway is not a guy that people like to play, but shots have to come from somewhere, and he's at least on the board for me. But the guy that I want to talk about is Jalen Brunson, and I want to bring him up because it reminds me of Terry Rozier from last year in this sense. So Terry Rozier, when Irving was out, was like 4,500 or something like that. He was like 100% owned out of when they weren't expecting Irving to be out. Okay, and so he smashed. And then the next game, they didn't know whether Irving was going to play. And again, they left him at 4,500, and he smashed. And then when they knew Irving wasn't going to play, they moved him up to 6,000, okay? And everybody just kind of got off him because, well, I played him at 4,500. Why do I play him at 6,000? But the fact of the matter is that his position hadn't changed, and he was really a $6,500 player who was playing at a 6,000 price. So I will say that Jalen Brunson, if he continues to get that full point guard run at 32 minutes, with no usage available to anybody really aside from Porzingis, he's projected to be really, really good. So I don't know if he's going to be low owned because of that $6,000 price tag. I haven't looked at it yet as far as the ownership goes, but I would not sleep on him.
Yeah, I'm interested in everybody on the Mavs side of the ball, but I don't think that I'm I don't personally want to play Tim Hardaway Jr. That's not going to happen for me today. I don't think I'm going to play that much Jalen Brunson, to be honest with you. I don't think this is it's interesting the total, but this is not like a smash spot exactly. And I don't really want to get crazy with Brunson here, at 6K. I'm okay with it. And maybe I'll throw him maybe I'll change my mind by the time the day's over. But I just don't love it. Even with the good games he's had lately, it's not like he's showing a ton of upside at 6K. This is not a great matchup. I would just prefer to play Porzingis, and I would prefer, honestly, to take a shot on either Kleber or Dwight Powell. I feel like there's upside for those guys at these prices, and I think Powell would be where I would probably go first, but I think they're both kind of interesting. So that's sort of where I'm looking over there. And then on the Boston side of it, I really am having trouble figuring out if I want to play anyone. I like the prices. I really like the price on Tatum and Walker. But I don't know. I'm just having trouble prioritizing it. So I think that's where you go is to Tatum, Walker, maybe on the other side, Porzingis. That's where I would lean. But I'm not in love with it. And I think you can play Cantor at a cheap price and take a shot any time. But I just feel kind of blah about this. I think
you like those wings better than Hayward?
Better than Hayward?
Yeah.
You
mentioned Tatum and Brown. I don't know. I mean,
why do we think that Hayward is playing?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't played. No.
What am I missing here?
It says out here?
I don't think he's playing.
Oh, he is ruled out. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, that's why those guys are
Okay.
interesting to me partially.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know why I just haven't played for some. Well. I mean, if he's out, then I got to take him another look at it. Maybe Tatum and Brown are pretty good plays. No.
Tatum and Brown interesting. I prefer Tatum, but it's rare that I prefer Tatum over Brown. But I definitely would.
Hey, I want to give you props for something that I forgot to earlier, and I only give you props because it's a concept that you've brought up a couple of times. I'm looking at Tyson Cantor here. It reminded me of something. So, like a week or two ago, I think I did it on my own. I was doing a thing with Tyson Cantor. They were both really good values, but I didn't know which one to play. And then somebody else said, "Well, why didn't you play them together?" Whatever. It reminded me of last night. I'm pretty sure that you did this, and it's something everybody's got to really take note of this, is that people were not sure what they were going to do with Dwight Howard or McGee, right? And they both showed to be really, really good values, and you would think that, you can't play them both because one would be in, the other would be out, or whatever it is. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, in your big lineup, you played them both, right?
Yeah, I did in one. I did in a ton of other lineups too. I thought it was the right thing to do. First of all, I thought their minutes were going to be increased. There was no question one of them was going to be on the court at all times. I actually thought there was a chance they could share the court. So I thought that was really an easy way to go. And I heard people on Grinders Live. I heard people on the other. Oh, you just said a thing. You can't play Dwight and McGee. And I'm going, you guys are just. I'm sorry. People just don't think about things before they say them. And they were just.
But you know what, Bobby? In fairness, I mean, it seems to be a logical thing to say. You know what I mean? That you can't play. It's not. Look, let's put it this way. People have said stupider things than that. Okay.
No, sure, of course. I'm just saying, like, it's a little reminds me of when Kamara and Ingram were, in New Orleans the last couple of years, and like you could play them both together, but probably not on a giant slate. And that's sort of how I felt about the game last night. And even on a giant slate, I might have considered it just because you're facing a team that's going to keep two bigs on the court all the time. So that means the Lakers are going to have to play a minimum of one. So yeah, that I appreciate the shout out, but yeah, that was definitely one of the right things I made.
And not even a shout out. It's more kind of an instructive thing that if guys are cheap enough, right, that you could play them together in tournament lineups. And we've seen it happen so many times this year. Like there was that one slate where there's all those New Orleans guys were really, really cheap, and people won tournaments playing 5 of them.
Yeah.
In one lineup, So it's look, if you don't want to put 5 10K guys, whatever. But I don't know. I don't want to play Cantor. I don't want to play Tice. But it was reminding me to bring that up from last.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, and definitely this is not the right situation, but I do think that sometimes it is.
Okay.
Should we move on to the finale?
So last game on the slate, Golden State at Portland. I am going to play a couple of mini stacks from this game for this reason. So first of all, from a projection perspective, nobody's projecting that great. I mean, Russell and Green look to be kind of like the best of kind of just blah alternatives from Golden State. On Portland, the usual, and Lillard and McCollum projecting to be okay. Whiteside's okay. Carmelo just kind of blah. But the thing is, the reason why I want to play this in this situation is these types of guys are all just the same kind of like upside type guys that I know can just put ceilings out regardless of projection. So, and you got them playing in the same game. I kind of want to try it. I kind of want to try Lillard with Russell and Green or something like that. Maybe put, Bazemore in or somebody like that. And I am definitely going to try a little bit of it. Stay a little bit on brand with the late night game and on brand with the idea of finding where the usage is playing against each other, and on brand with just kind of not ignoring the projections, but, just giving a little slack when it comes to some of these guys that you just know have that kind of disbursement of results. So I'm going to try a little bit of this just for fun.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Like, this is a really, really I think it's an extremely interesting game stack. I would, you could play Lillard or McCollum on one side. Probably you just need one piece from Portland,
right.
But you can play 3 or 4 from Golden State easily. And at these prices, you can play Green and Russell together. You can play Green separate. I think Green is actually the preferred play on the Golden State side of the ball. And I think that the next best play by far, and no one I haven't heard him talked about yet, is Eric Pascal. Like, what do we think is going to happen with his minutes where he's all of a sudden a 4,600 player? He's a 6K player. He's going to put up 30 fantasy points more often than not. Even with Draymond in there, he's always played those minutes. So I know he's coming back from an injury, but if he plays, like, Pascal at 4.6 is like an incredibly interesting value. I mean, he could 10x that price, and I don't think you're going to get much ownership on him.
You get no ownership on him.
Yeah, that's my personal guess. I mean, right now we haven't projected for some ownership, but I don't think that's going to last. I really like this spot. I think that I'm probably just going to play Draymond here or Russell there because I'm not playing a ton of lineups. But I do think that this is a terrific game stack if you want to take that route. And if I was playing a bunch of lineups and being able to edit late tonight, I would certainly be doing that.
Yeah, so I want to do a little bit of just a real quick look at FanDuel. But I mean, overall on DraftKings, again, this could be, like I said, there'll be two main stacks that I think are kind of like going to be on everybody's mind in play. The New Orleans, Minnesota, especially if Cat's out, and the Washington game. And I think that a sneaky game like this Golden State game could be the one. I don't know whether
we've seen it. We've seen it. We just saw it the last time that all these guys played. They won all the money.
Yep.
It was Russell and Green. If you didn't have Russell and Green, you weren't winning the money.
Yep.
So.
All right. So on FanDuel, again, all I did, and the way I just start my FanDuel is I look at projections, look who projects decent value, and then just kind of just go position by position, and then just kind of see where I would fill in or whatever. It turns out that I got kind of a deep group of players projection-wise, leaving only 200 on the table. And again, I don't know why it is with FanDuel. I don't focus as much on the stacking aspect as on DraftKings. I guess because of the multi-position eligibility, which is I guess why I just kind of don't like playing as FanDuel as much as I like playing on DraftKings. But I did the same thing on FanDuel as I did with DraftKings last night. I did the same bunching of 3 and 3, and I let it kind of work out for me. But on FanDuel, it looks like Bertans is particularly good on FanDuel relative to DraftKings and relative to everybody in general. He's a particularly good price. Shea, again, usual caveats, but Shea looks to be a really, really good price there. And I had McCollum actually as being pretty good on FanDuel also. I didn't really notice, and again, if Georgie Dang starts and all that stuff happens, then it's something different. But I guess Mahinmi at 4,300 is better on FanDuel. I didn't really, spend too much time on the FanDuel specific, but these are just kind of guys that kind of fit a lineup that I threw in there. You take any kind of look at FanDuel that would give you anything specific?
Yeah, I like the Kogi play. I think that we got to start thinking more about these Boston guys. Like, I didn't probably do it enough justice the first time we went through it. But I think that, I like the idea of overpaying for Kristaps on FanDuel. Not overpaying, but paying $9K for him. He's going to be owned, but it's not going to be, out of control. And then I don't think Jaylen Brown on the other side gets a ton of interest. I also think that if you wanted to play Tatum instead of Bertans, everybody's going to play Bertans on FanDuel. It's kind of an interesting route to go, but I do like Bertans as well. I just think that you could go that route. I think that Lonzo's price is really interesting. So if Lonzo is, good to go, I think that he's a guy who I'm definitely going to have some interest in. It's just the price versus upside for 5,400 in a great game environment that I'm having trouble getting away from. And again, I'm just going to keep stacking this New Orleans Minnesota game. I don't feel like I need to get all that. I'm going to hope the game stays close. I don't think that's a terrible thing to ask for. It's not like Minnesota's these world beaters or anything. And then I'm going to, that game stays close. Another guy, by the way, I want to mention is Kemba Walker just feels way too cheap everywhere.
I'm a little confused. So again, I had two different sites I was looking at as far as projections go. And one of them had Hayward in and the other one had Hayward out. I wasn't looking at the one with Hayward out. So I'm just presuming that Hayward out, that everybody would be really chalky on the rest of it. And
they're not.
They're just not.
And not only is Hayward out, by the way, Marcus Smart is out too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like they're 10%, but on FanDuel, 10% is nothing. I mean,
no, but it's because the way the positions work out. Yes. That's why it's happening. I love it though. I mean, this is a great thing to attack here. Like, I think we may have found our little spot for tonight. Like, other than the Minnesota New Orleans game, like maybe you play either Kemba, but like one of those three guys. It seems hard for them not to have 40 fantasy points, and especially in a really good game environment. Like, this is not a low total. This is not one of these old Boston, Dallas slowdown games. You get a 260, 217 total here. Like, this is a spot.
Well, all I did from this build is make one change, and I put Kemba as the point guard. And now I got Kemba and Brunson and Porzingis, and I can put one wing in here for Boston. And I got something. You know what I mean? Like, I got –
yeah.
I mean, Tatum maybe a power forward would make this a little more difficult. But Jaylen Brown, 6,500 small – I mean, I'd have to play around, but who the hell needs freaking Shea Alexander anyway? So I can get rid of him. So maybe that's the third game. You know, maybe that's the one. I don't know. That's going to be boy, this is all, like you said, this has become a much more interesting slate in the last hour of talking about this.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially this Kemba thing. Like, he's been shooting the ball a ton, and he's been putting up these numbers with these guys playing. 7,600, man, and these have been terrible matchups that he's been in mostly. This is a pretty good matchup, so I'm into it, man. I'm definitely into it. I can't quite bring myself to pull the trigger on something I really want to do, which is play DeLon Wright on FanDuel. I think he's a massive upside play in this game, but I really think it's extremely volatile.
What do the centers look like here? So Drummond and Embiid look to have the same price, and Drummond's probably twice the ownership. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess. Mahimi, FanDuel could be fun. I don't know. Maybe FanDuel could be fun tonight. FanDuel's never fun, but FanDuel might be able to be fun tonight. I don't know.
I think it is fun tonight. Man, what are you talking about? It's not fun. I've been crushing on FanDuel lately.
I'm not saying the results wise. It's just less fun.
Yeah.
It's just less fun because you're like, ooh, how do I put this? How can I put Draymond Green at the point guard? Oh no, I'm going to put it power forward instead, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, because FanDuel, I find as though, like, I don't want to say they force you into things, but every once in a while, okay, I switch this guy, and then you're like, okay, now I'm between exactly two small forwards, you know?
Right.
So it's just a little different approach. But
no, but there's a lot of ways to go. I mean, like, I'm just going to throw out some names like Josh Richardson, Josh Hart. Both the Joshes at shooting guard are interesting. Kemba Walker is going to be off the board. Lonzo Ball might be off the board if he plays. He's 5,400. Joel Embiid is 9,400 over here. This is a significant savings. Am I going to just lock button Joel Embiid? I don't even do the lock button thing very much, but this is starting to feel like the night where I might do it.
Well, why not?
I love him. I just think he's going to go nuts.
I don't know. He's definitely got a lot of he's got a lot of competition at that position.
Yeah, but I would take him against every single one of these guys straight up.
See, this is what's tilted. This is what's so tilting on FanDuel. It seems like this happens all the time. So just for the hell of it, I put Josh Richardson in where Shea is because I hate Shea and he's going to be chalk.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, so all I got to do is look at this. I could take Troy Brown out and I could put in Jaylen Brown right there at 6,300, except he's exactly 6,500. It's like I want to just like take my fist and put it right through the freaking screen. You know? So, but there's definitely things that you can.
I think you can play Culver and him like.
Oh.
No, I mean, like, but that's not even that dirty. Like Culver versus Okogie, like I don't know, just an option.
So if I did that, right? So if I did Culver.
Oh no, you can't actually. Culver's actually more than Okogie over here.
It's rough out there, right?
It is. It's a little bit rough, but I really like my shooting guards over here. With if Redick is out with the Hart Richardson thing, I think OG Anunoby.
How much is Hart?
What?
How much is Hart?
48.
Well, that's something totally different. And
Anunoby is the guy I'm sort of leaning towards at small forward. By the way, other than Okogie, I think that 4.9 is just a little too cheap for him, and obviously provides a high steal block upside. The game actually, projected to be kind of fast. And, in 4 out of his last 5 games, we'd be happy with his results. and actually be really happy on one of those games. So I just think he's kind of an interesting a mid-tier play that people probably won't go to. What do you got going?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out whether I want Carmelo Anthony or Jonathan Isaac or Miles Bridges.
Oh my goodness. I think I would lean the Isaac Bridges route, but on FanDuel, but I don't think I'd love any of that.
Or rebuild, right?
Yeah, but I mean, actually, Bridges is not the worst play in the world. He'll put up 30-something probably. Anyway, all right, Sheets. Been a good show. Final thoughts, hot take, anything?
I had one, and then I forgot it. I'm not gonna lie. Wasn't really a hot take. It was another thing that we kind of forgot to go over, which I've continued to forget. So what's going to happen is tomorrow when somebody wins 100,000, I'm going to pretend that it's the thing that I meant to mention that I just forgot. But honestly, I do think that I think the fun part of this, and this is what makes DFS fun, and when you analyze slates, is to try to figure out, call it slate IQ, call it whatever, like what's going to win a particular slate. You know, especially if you're playing GPPs. Like, is it going to be a game stack? Is it going to be a battle of one-offs? And just having an approach and having a plan, and hopefully it fits. Like, you know what? Life would be so good if I had one stack of a 10-30 island game of low-owned guys that projected well. That'd be awesome, okay? But aside from that, then you start making concessions along the way. But I do think that I am gonna continue to err on the side of those late games where possible. So I'll have kind of the bookends, right? I'll have the Charlotte game over here. I'll have the Portland game over here, and then I'll have the Minnesota game over here. So it's kind of like a time warp slate.
I like it. That makes a lot of sense.
Not really, but you wanted something, so that's what you got.
I know. I think it makes some sense. I think it's interesting. Anyway, guys, I think it's a really fun slate. I hope you all enjoy it and do well with it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Give us the like and the thumbs up. Not sure what's happening to everyone else's YouTube account, but they're getting shut down. But hey, that means you're going to watch more with us. So for Sheets, I'm BobbyFi saying good luck tonight, and we will talk to you guys a little later on.
And okay, good. Peace.